Today, we're going to focus on 5 intense high-octane action games that you can play on the Steam Deck OLED, and the best part is natively without any configurations, maybe outside of limiting the frame rate to like 30 FPS for some games, just to make it stable. You're going to be able to run all of this, and it's going to run real smooth. So all you got to do is go to the Steam page, buy the game, download it, and you're ready to go. First up is a cult classic and one of my top 5 favorite games of all time, Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. This game is fast-paced, over-the-top, has a great skill progression curve and a lot of little silly unlockables, doesn't take itself too seriously, so there's a lot of funny moments or like very campy moments that became memes in and of itself. If you heard of Nano Machine Sun, this is where it came from. And the soundtrack is stellar. It's a mainstay in my workout playlist. The history behind this game is that it almost never made it out alive out of development. The developers wanted this action game where you can cut anything. And while this game does not have that, you can at least slice and dice some objects in the world and all the enemies that you fight using the Sandatsu mechanic, where you get to control your slices, and it's a nice rhythmic flow of action, something that Platinum Games is very good at. You can unlock skills as you go along, and you always feel like you're in control. On the Steam Deck OLED, it runs at a solid 60 FPS, but limits itself to 34 cutscenes only. Getting to play as a cyborg ninja is a treat on the OLED screen. It feels great on the native Steam Deck controller, and best of all, the game does not overstay its welcome. Just as you getting to experience everything, the game ends and you're left with a very great impression of time well spent. So I highly recommend Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance if you have never played it before, as it's intense, it's fun, and best of all, it doesn't take up a lot of room on your Steam Deck OLED.
Nice.
And while the high-octane katana action isn't for everybody, if you still want that over-the-top feeling but a more methodical and precise combat system, I gotta recommend to you a little game that might consume your soul for many, many, many hours, and that is Elden Ring. Surprisingly, Elden Ring on a high graphics setting runs at a smooth and stable 30 FPS. For a game with such a grand scope, I was really surprised to have this game be so stable, especially with so many enemies on the screen or things going on. This game is magical, it will steal hundreds of hours of your life, and it's highly replayable, so if you're looking for something to play for a very long time, Elden Ring is an easy recommendation because you're gonna get lost in the world and get so pulled in by the suffering that it will cause you, but you're gonna enjoy that suffering. It's a great time. Oh, and a big bonus, for how big the world is, the load times are actually pretty good, so being able to fast travel and not worry too much about being stuck in load screen hell, like in something like Starfield, is a great plus. And if you have already played Elden Ring and all the other Souls games in the series, don't worry, I got you, because you have to try another medieval dark fantasy game, and that is Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen. It's an open world medieval dark fantasy game. The character build variety in Dragon's Dogma is not as free and liberating as Elden Ring, but you're gonna get that intense action and that level of atmosphere and immersion, especially when you're roaming the fields at night, where the OLED screens is true blacks, will definitely pull you in. And you're gonna get freaked out once you stumble on some monsters that roam in the dark, and they'll eat you alive, and you're gonna be like, whoa, I peed my pants, but that was awesome. The best parts of this recommendation is that the long-awaited sequel is coming very soon next year, so this is a great primer for that if you're interested in playing. The Steam Deck OLED can easily handle this game at a constant 60 FPS, no problem. And it often goes on sale for very, very cheap, so if you already haven't played it and you've already played Elden Ring, I recommend picking this up and playing it. And on that note, if you would like to see how Dragon's Dogma 2 performs on the Steam Deck OLED, hit that subscribe button because that is 100% happening. Next up is what I would probably call the Steam Deck OLED game. It's a game that had a bit of a redemption arc, and I'm really glad to see how it ended up in 2023. Cyberpunk 2077, the current version, the current state of the game, oozes atmosphere, it's super immersive, the characters are well written, and it really sells you on that bleak dystopian future that we are fastly approaching in our actual life. And while it doesn't maintain a constant 30 FPS all the time, it sometimes dips down to like 26 FPS, but it's so smooth that you won't even notice. And just for how big and detailed the world is, it looks amazing on the Steam Deck OLED. It pops out at you, the controls are responsive, and best of all, you have so many ways to play Cyberpunk 2077. There's a lot of build variety, and the 2.0 rework has made that character progression feel a lot more meaningful. Enhancing yourself with cybernetics actually feel meaningful, and it's a great time. If you want to be a stealthy hacker sneaking your way through everything, you're gonna have a good time. If you just want to run and gun your way through things, you can do that. You want to be a sniper, cool. You want to be some kind of weeb and run in there and cut everybody up in slow-mo, go for it. You can play this game in so many ways, and the cloud save interaction between your main rig and the Steam Deck OLED makes Night City very appealing to explore, because some missions will only take a couple minutes, some may take a bit longer. You can kind of pick and choose and get to know every nook and cranny of the world, and again, it runs really smooth, so you're gonna have a great time throughout. I almost didn't put this game on the list because it's on everyone's list, but then I put Elden Ring on, and it's just like, this game is too good to pass up on. Honestly, I would recommend this game to everybody in this current version. It's great. Like, out of all the games on this list, I would put this as #1 on the, if I had to choose one, and I wanted a mix of everything, a good story, a good atmosphere, fun gameplay, a lot of choice, good exploration, and meaningful narrative, bam. Cyberpunk 2077 is for you, and they're still supporting it to this day. They just added like a metro section and even more content for you to enjoy. So this fourth game is actually 2 games, but hear me out. I highly recommend you check out Vanquish if you want some intense, high-speed, frenetic action with a little bit of a skill curve. It's an underrated gem that gets skipped out on all the time, and it does take a little bit of a startup time to kind of understand the systems, and once you do, once it clicks, you're gonna like dash into an enemy from like 3 miles away, do a kickflip, and then freeze time, snipe 3 people, then do a little barrel roll, and then just go insane. It's amazing once it clicks, but it does need that startup time to get going. It's also developed by Platinum Games, the same people who developed Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, the first game on this list. This game is perfect for somebody who's looking for a fast-paced third-person shooter. Now, I put Vanquish here because it is a game that not a lot of people know about, so I just want to like bring more awareness to this game. If you're looking for something a bit more mainstream that gives you the same energy as this game in terms of like being a third-person shooter that's all about speed and a sense of scale and being over the top, and add in the fact that you can customize your own character, and you've got Armored Core 6. It's an amazing game and a technical marvel that runs at a constant 35 to 40 FPS on the Steam Deck OLED, so I would personally recommend limiting it to 30, and you're going to have a smooth gameplay experience all throughout. Highly recommend either games. Please check them out. They are worth your time, especially on the Steam Deck OLED. And we're not even done with this list yet. I told you I was going to give you 5 games, but I did want to give some variance to those 5 options. So the 5th option is going to be 5 games wrapped up into one recommendation. As a Capcom creator myself and a big Capcom fanboy, I personally think that a lot of Capcom games, especially those running on the RE engine, run spectacularly and look amazing on the Steam Deck OLED. Within the Capcom library itself, you are spoiled for choice in terms of how you enjoy your blend of action. My current go-to right now is Street Fighter 6, and all the modes outside of the single-player story mode runs at a smooth 60 FPS. I cannot say enough good things about this game. It runs great on the Steam Deck, and it plays great as well. I am a bit competitive in that game, and being able to pull off combos like it was nothing on the Steam Deck OLED was a joy. And having the online play work as well as it does, base settings off the get-go, is spectacular. But as a fighting game where the whole main point is a PvP for a handheld that relies mainly on wireless technology, I can't fully recommend this game to everybody. If you're into competitive fighters, it's great, and you probably already have it. If you're not, then these next 4 games are for you. For those looking for a more single-player focused experience, I would recommend Resident Evil 4 Remake on the Steam Deck OLED. It runs at a stable 40 frames per second, and the game itself is less of a horror game and more of an action game. It's got the atmosphere, but the action is just so freaking good that you can't be afraid of anything because Leon is a total badass in this game. The moment-to-moment gameplay of Resident Evil 4 is just a joy to play through. The pacing is great, and it never overstays its welcome. So by the time you're getting a little bit tired of the game, it's over. It's done. Best of all, Resident Evil 4 Remake is built to be replayed a bunch of different ways. You have a lot of different gun combinations you can do, a lot of difficulty modes, and a lot of secret unlockables that you can get. Alongside the base game, there's also a mercenary mode, a true arcade mode for you to play through to unlock even more things. Mercenary mode lets you play as multiple different characters with different loadouts and setups, and the objective is to kill a bunch of zombie enemies while keeping up your time limit. So like, you start out with a certain time limit, and doing certain things will raise that timer, so you want to keep your timer going for as long as you can, building up as many points as you can, and you start to unlock more characters and maps as you complete these challenges with higher scores and rankings. So it's a fun, compelling gameplay loop that you can pick up and play for minutes at a time. Perfect for the Steam Deck OLED. It runs great because it is on RE Engine. As a single player experience, it's a lot of fun. Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition is going to be another solo adventure worth your time, and it runs really well on the Steam Deck as well, clocking a consistent and smooth 60 FPS. A combination of good graphics, great animations, and particle effects makes it a joy to look at on the Steam Deck OLED. And just like Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, there's a good skill progression curve where you can be learning a lot about each of the characters that you can play, and in the Special Edition, you're going to have access to 4 different characters and 4 different playstyles. Now, if you're looking for something a bit more cooperative, there's 2 games from Capcom that I highly recommend. One of them is sadly not on the RE Engine, so you're going to have to play it in a 30 FPS cap, which is not great for this type of game, but it's playable, and that is the Monster Hunter series. Monster Hunter Rise is playable and runs super smooth on the Steam Deck OLED, 60 frames per second and a high graphics settings, just because, again, RE framework is goated. I have a hard time recommending Monster Hunter Rise, however, because it is not a beginner-friendly game. The game doesn't teach you too much, and it's a more arcadey experience of Monster Hunter. That might not be great for you. You're going to be overwhelmed with a lot of different mechanics, and they keep stacking things on top of it. It's one of my favorite Monster Hunters, but I really cannot recommend it. You can run around and zip line around and become like a ninja. It's really cool. But if you have never played a Monster Hunter game before, I highly recommend starting out with Monster Hunter World. It holds your hand a bit better, gives you a better entryway into the world. And with the next mainline Monster Hunter just around the corner with Monster Hunter Wild, now's a great time to jump in, make some friends, or just take some of your friends and bring them over with you, because you can play almost the entire game as a 4-player party, and it's a great time as you're growing together, building better armors and weapons, and learning the systems of the game together. And by the time you finish your journey, you're gonna have a party for Monster Hunter Wild. So bam, 2 birds, 1 stone. And that is my 5th recommendation. It's all of these Capcom games, they play great, and depending on who you are, you're gonna have a great time if you pick the right game. If you're interested in any of the titles, I would recommend picking them up from my storefront. As an official Capcom creator, I do have a partnership with them where anytime you buy from that store, you are supporting this channel directly, and you'll be provided a Steam key. Most of the time, when it goes on sale on Steam, it goes on sale here as well. So if you'd like to support your boy, definitely check out that storefront, link in the description below. I'm sorry I gave you a lot more than 5 games, but all of the games on this list are worth your time. If you'd like to see more Steam Deck content like this, let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, my name is Varsona, and I'll see you in the next video.